In a grimy building, a janitor mops the floor just as a body crashes through a window and lands on a truck outside with a sickening thud. Across town, two men share a tense dinner. One talks about the struggles of recovering alcoholics like the man in the suit, but the man in the suit reveals the pain of past trauma makes forgiveness difficult. He longs for normalcy, for conversations free of the tragedy that befell his family 5 years ago. Suddenly, the scene shifts. The man in the suit, now revealed as a detective, crosses a police line. Another officer leads him to a gruesome discovery: the dented truck with a body sprawled across its bed. The detective examines the deceased and looks up at the surrounding building. His partner expresses disbelief. A keen eye for detail catches something. The pavement around the truck is free of shattered glass. The detective theorizes the body didn't fall, but rather the truck rolled, carrying the victim to its final resting place. Following this hunch, the detectives turn a corner, their eyes falling upon a building that aligns more convincingly with the deadly trajectory of the body. Next to the modern skyscraper, we witness the introduction of various characters one by one. Initially, there's a man in a hoodie loitering nearby, followed by a gentleman wearing a red tie who strides past him and enters the building. Next, our attention shifts to the security guard who answers a ringing phone at the reception desk, while an elderly woman stands confused in the middle of the lobby. Shortly after, a young woman enters the lobby, passing the security guard at the reception before being stopped by him and directed to the back of the line to sign the visitor's log. Meanwhile, the security guard instructs his colleague to take a package to the 39th floor and proceeds towards the elevator. Attempting to enter an elevator, the man with the red tie and the elderly lady find it full, so they decide for the next one that arrives empty. They are joined by the security guard, but just as the doors begin to close, someone calls out to wait, allowing the young woman from earlier to enter. Another person, unable to get assistance, grabs the door and enters. It turns out to be the same man in the hoodie. Once everyone is inside, the elevator starts moving, but suddenly stops and becomes jammed. Meanwhile, an elderly security guard is engrossed in watching a hockey game in the main security room. A younger colleague enters, and they engage in a conversation about the ongoing game. It catches the younger guard's attention that one of the elevators is in inspection mode, prompting the older guard to contact the building engineer to address the issue. While the engineer is occupied fixing a broken window high up in the building, the guard urges him to prioritize checking the elevator due to the presence of trapped individuals. Inside the elevator, tension mounts as a security guard grows increasingly anxious. The elderly woman persistently asks him about the emergency procedures, but he, being a temporary employee, lacks the necessary knowledge. Joining her in questioning, the man in the red tie activates the emergency button. As they wonder aloud why the security guard doesn't have a walkie-talkie, a voice emanates from the elevator's communication system, reassuring them that help is on the way. However, the older security guard struggles to communicate with them and requests they speak into the camera, realizing there's an issue with the microphone preventing him from hearing them. The security guard inside the elevator attempts to call the lobby using his cell phone, but due to poor signal, he receives no response. In a gesture of kindness, the young woman offers him her phone, but their call is brief and quickly loses connection. Meanwhile, music begins playing in the elevator, prompting the man in the red tie to start singing, much to the annoyance of everyone else in the elevator. Simultaneously, the engineer is en route to the machine room at the top of the building, where a gust of wind dislodges his hat, nearly causing him to lose his balance. Down at ground level, two detectives are seen approaching and engaged in conversation. One detective, having previously been at the diner, discovers glass on the pavement and observes a man nearby sweeping up more glass. He instructs the man to cease his actions and declares the area a crime scene. The situation intensifies when a large piece of glass falls from the building, narrowly missing his partner and confirming his suspicion. Back inside the building, the engineer is observed inspecting the elevator from the shaft. He contacts the main security room to report that everything appears normal, but advises them to reset the elevator. Back at the elevator, the senior security guard informs the group that the light will be out for roughly 20 seconds. As the lights dim and then flicker back on, the elderly woman screams at the guard, demanding him to stay away from her, to which he promptly apologizes, revealing his severe claustrophobia. In a bid to alleviate the situation, the third individual in the group pushes a panel at the top of the elevator, allowing fresh air to filter in. When the security guard suggests climbing up, the others caution against it, citing the dangers of ascending the cable. Meanwhile, in the machine room, the engineer inquires with the main security if the reset worked, only to receive a negative response. In the main security office, the two guards discuss the broken window in the building, speculating that someone might have jumped from it earlier that morning. Back on the elevator, the man in the red tie offers his business card to the elderly lady, sparking a conversation prompted by his remark about her. He boasts about his ability to discern wealth and makes comparisons between the elderly lady and the young woman, insinuating that the latter's attire suggests affluence. Offended, the young woman accuses him of grabbing her, just as the lights begin to flicker. Concerned by the flickering lights, the senior guard in the main office contacts the engineer to inquire if he's causing it. The engineer reassures him that he's merely inspecting the elevators from below, and asserts that everything seems fine from his vantage point. He then manipulates a lever on the side of the elevator, questioning if it helps alleviate the situation. The senior security guard updates the engineer, indicating that there has been no change in the situation. In response, the engineer resolves to return to the roof and manually manually reset the system. Meanwhile, the lights in the elevator flick once more, an event witnessed from the main office. As the younger guard observes something unsettling on the screen, he experiences a sense of fear. Simultaneously, the engineer hears an unusual voice and investigates beneath the elevators, narrowly avoiding being crushed by a descending elevator. Following this, the lights in the elevator flicker again before extinguishing completely, accompanied by strange noises. When the lights return for the third time, the occupants discover the young woman lying on the ground, prompting concern from the guards in the main office. It's then noticed she sustained an injury on her back. Inside the elevator, panic ensues as suspicions arise regarding the man in the red tie, who attempts to conceal blood on himself. Upon the young woman's mention of feeling as though she was bitten, the third individual inquires if anyone possesses something sharp that would have caused her harm. The security guard inside the elevator then notices blood on the man with the red tie and proceeds to search him for a weapon. Observing the unfolding events from the security room, the guards determine the need to involve the police due to the reported assault. Outside the building, the detective from the diner converses with forensics.